on the Newman Jets Audio Network. This is the Jetcast, the official podcast of Newman University Athletics, featuring exclusive interviews with coaches, players, administrators, and more. The Jetcast podcast is brought to you by South Central Ceiling and Paving, online at SCSEALING.com. Mel Hambledon Ford, Pepsi, Allstate Insurance Agent Mike Light, Eck Agency, Donlinger Construction, Big Corner Creative, Dr. Brennan Lucas and Advanced Orthopedic Associates, Keystone Solid Surfaces, and by Overland Charters, the official transportation provider of Newman University Athletics. Here's the voice of the Newman Jets, Blake Cripps.
Newman University tennis is finally here after all this time and all this delay. We're finally getting back onto the court. Doubleheader action as the men and women open up the year against the Ottawa Braves here in Wichita on February 6th. And joining me is the director of tennis here at Newman University as we start episode number 32 of the Jetcast. Shella Augspurger, great to have you on the show finally here in the second semester. We get to talk Jets tennis. So great to have you back on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Blake.
Obviously, for you guys, for the men and women, it was a long off season, much longer than you would have wanted and much longer than I'm sure you were expecting. How did you use that off season during the pandemic? How did that affect the tennis teams all the way back, if you can think back to last March. And when the world changed as we knew it, and I guess it probably still isn't the same since then?
Well, since March, I think most of the players finished school and then they went home, and a lot of them got to play when they were home, so that kept them busy and in shape. A few of them had to stay quarantined, but a lot of the places that they were, their courts were open, so because they were outside, they got to play. In the fall, one of the best things, we had about half of both teams could come back, so we got to spend a little more time with them individually, just working and practicing. We didn't get to do a lot off the court because we have social distance and stuff like that, but we had a really good fall. We got to get ready for this spring, getting everything ready, and I got to recruit a lot, so That was nice. I do a lot of recruiting online anyway, so it was good for me, and a lot of kids are wanting to stay closer to home, so I got a lot of my recruiting finished and then got ready for all of them to come back this spring.
Here on episode 32 of the Jetcast, we're talking tennis. We'll have a senior from Serbia, Antelj. He'll be coming up with us. And also Darin, Spence, head women's basketball coach, getting set to preview the Bearcast. That's all coming up here on the show. Preseason prep this year. I know that you've probably got a system or something that, everybody knows, okay, this is kind of when things start. And there's even a fall schedule most years in tennis. Obviously, that was not the case this year. No fall actual competition. How were you able to use the fall this year, and what has the preseason prep been like as you've come back from Christmas break, trying to get ramped up for this February start to the season?
Well, most of the kids, hopefully, were playing on their own wherever they were. Now, that was what I was told. Some kids still were, like I said, were quarantined, so they didn't get to.
Right.
But they came in a week earlier. They've all been on the court since they got back. We don't start practice till Thursday, but they're all at night going as a group, hitting, so that's good. Genesis has been letting us to go in there. We have free walk-on time there because we are paying for the courts for our practices.
Sure.
So they've allowed us to do that. So the kids have been over there hitting a lot. We're just trying to get everybody ready with all their paperwork and their physicals, and because we start on Thursday and then we have matches next week. So it's going to be, it's not as bad as like with a team sport, because learning the system and whatever our defense or offense is, they can actually practice on their own as long as they have somebody else to hit with. So it's not as bad. It's just kind of everything's just crammed into about a couple days to get ready.
How has the schedule and how the championship, how's that going to be changed this year in the MIAA? Is there still going to be a league championship? I noticed on the schedule you still have league teams that you are playing, both on the men and the women, in your MIAA schedule. So that you still have those contests. There's a lot of non-conference games, matches, and that's not really any different. You play a lot of, typically play quite a few non-conference matches in the middle of the year, which is a little bit different than maybe some of the other team sports like basketball or soccer or baseball, which don't play as many as tennis does. Is there going to be MIAA championships? The spring championship is still on nationally. Talk to us about that. How is the schedule kind of lining up this year? And how is it maybe different than it would be in the spring of a normal tennis season?
Well, usually we're allowed NCAA 25 play dates where we can have matches. The conference the NCAA took it down to 17 for us, which is what we usually have in a spring season, because we usually do the other 8 in the fall. Those are the ones that are counting in the fall, are usually 8 of them, tournaments or other matches. So our spring isn't going to look much different. We did have to change some matches because some states' schools weren't allowed to travel too far out of their state, so we had to reconstruct that as far as the schedule goes. As far as the tournament goes, they did reduce it in the number of teams that will be able to go. Instead of, I think they reduced it by 2 on both sides, men and women. So but other than that, we play this, the conference matches will be the same.
Give us a preview of both teams. Let's start with the men's team. Who are some of the players that you're going to be leaning on this year to be leaders and point scorers for you as you get into those conference competitions? Who are going to be some of the men that you're looking out for this year?
Well, definitely our seniors. We have Arthur and Teddy are returners. Teddy's in his 5th year because he got the COVID return, so he decided to stay.
Sure.
So that was a good thing because we didn't have to replace him. So
is this a give-back year for tennis, or was last year the give-back year? Does this count against their eligibility this year?
This is if they were seniors last year, they get to play this year.
Okay, got it.
So he decided to stay. So Teddy and Arthur will be the captains this year. They're the 2 that we'll rely on. Arthur was hurt a little last year, so he did a lot of rehab in the off season. We haven't practiced yet, so I'm not sure where he is in that. I'm hoping he's, ready to go.
Of course.
If not, we have a couple more months before we start conference that he can be ready. We have 4 returners in the lineup, so that will help us a lot. We have 3 new players. We were going to have 4 come in, but the one, Ali, couldn't get in because he couldn't get his visa, so he won't. If it opens up in his country, he's taking online classes, so if it opens up, he'll be able to come halfway through the season and so be okay to play. So,
what about the ladies on the women's side? What are your expectations for them, and who are going to be some of the players on the women's side who are going to have to lead that group?
I have 1 senior, Emily, and then 2 juniors that are returning, so they will be the ones that I rely on the most. Marie, who is a new freshman from France, she was here over the fall, so it was nice because she got to really practice with us, and I got to work with her a lot, so I think she's ready to go. And then we have 2 at Lauren. She's going to have to play. She didn't play last year, but because one other girl didn't get in because of her visa, she can't come. So she's going to have to. She'll see a little more time on the court than she did last year. So, and she's been working on the off season. All the girls that stayed here over break, a lot of them didn't go home because they were afraid they couldn't get back.
Right.
So they stayed here and they practiced the whole time over break. So.
Now, one of the players that would have affected, of course, would have been Teddy Antelj, who's going to be our next guest. He's from Serbia. He's obviously behind the camera. But what do you have to say for Mr. Teddy? We've talked to him a couple times. One of the characters on the team, and this year he's going to have to be one of the leaders too.
Oh yeah, he's done a really good job. I'm really proud of him. He's grown up a lot. He's matured. His game has gotten so much better. He spent the whole break out in California. Working at a club, playing, teaching, so I think he's really matured a lot in his game, and I think I'm looking forward to watching him play this spring because I just want to see how he's developed, having worked in a club all summer.
Well, if you've been watching this show, you know that we have kind of a segment and feature that we call Question Chain. And since we are starting with tennis here, how this works is you will ask a question to your player, and the next time we have your team on, Teddy will ask a question for the next player, and so the chain will keep going around, and eventually, hopefully, it'll get back to you. So your duty right now is to give me a question that I will ask Mr. Antelj when he gets up here. So what do you want me to ask Teddy here in a few minutes?
I want to know what he wants and expects from the team this year.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. So you got a couple minutes to figure that out, Teddy. So what his expectations are for the team. So we'll get that from him in the next segment. Final question for you. What are your expectations for your men's and women's team?
Probably the same as always. Just go with the flow.
Even more important this year,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes. And we, as an outdoor sport, we have to do that a lot. And that is one of the biggest things that I work on with them is when things don't go your way, how do you react to it? Think about it, take a breath, go forward because of our, being outside and the weather and injuries. Things change a lot in our sport, so that they usually adapt pretty well. Yesterday was one of those days where we had to adapt on almost everything. And I think it's one of those important things with a job later in life that they know how that the whole world's not falling apart just because it doesn't go the way you want it to.
Right.
So I think that is one of the things we'll just keep working on, and that they trust me and they trust the process, and that they are always going to get better as long as they do what we ask them to do and give their effort. A good effort. So
Shella Augspurger, director of tennis. Once again, the Jets open up the season non-conference action against the Ottawa Braves of the KCAC February 6th here in Wichita. Best of luck to you and the whole fleet of Jets.
Thanks, Blake.
We've got Teddy Antelj from Serbia, senior captain of the men's team, joining us next on the Jetcast.
Hi friends, Phil Nightingale, General Manager at Mount Hamilton Ford. Have you been thinking about a new SUV? Right now is a great time to buy a new Ford at the big corner of 119th and West Kellogg. EcoSport, Escape, Edge, Explorer, Expedition, Mount Hamilton Ford is sure to have the right vehicle to fit your size. And you know you can count on us with this great selection to find the right SUV at the best price to fit your budget. Check us out online or in person. Let us make your purchase easy with pickup and delivery right from your home or work. Mount Hamilton Ford, experience the difference.
Back here on the Jetcast, getting set for the Newman tennis season, getting started on February 6th here in Wichita. And we're joined now by a senior captain off of the men's team. He went 6-1 in singles last year, 5-3 in doubles from Belgrade, Serbia, Teodor Antelj, but everybody calls him Teddy, and so he will as well. Teddy, it's great to have you back, a veteran of the program. And I think you were on the radio show back when we had that. We had you on the podcast last year. Great to see you again.
That is correct. And thank you very much, Blake, for having me again.
Obviously, this had to be a much different offseason for you than probably any that you've ever had in your career. How did you handle the offseason? Were you able to go home? How did you kind of spend your time? I know that Shella said in the previous segment you went out to California, got to do some teaching out there. So just kind of wrap up your offseason for us, and how did the pandemic affect you?
So basically, when May came, I had my ticket to go back home to Serbia, but the ticket got canceled, and then I didn't know what to do. I stayed here in school, and then I got an offer to go to California, where I went. I did an internship there. Basically, it was mostly for sports communication, where I was doing more organization of events for adults, for kids. It was a lot of different stuff, and also sometimes a little bit of coaching. But throughout my experience there, I was like, 6-7 months working there. I got good experience there. I learned a lot, and I believe that I'm ready now to show that knowledge into this semester.
Were you able to go home at any point during?
Yes, okay. I switched my ticket to December, so I was available to go home. So I was in December in Serbia, and I stayed there for a month, and I came back last week.
How great was it for you to be able to see family and friends? And
yeah, it was amazing. I was just waiting to go home for a long time, and 1 year without seeing family, friends, it's a struggle. But
that's a long time.
It is what it is.
In this crazy time. Yeah. Last year, before everything kind of got aborted there with the coronavirus pandemic and the season was abruptly shut off, you were having a heck of a year. Won 6 of 7. I think you were on a little bit of a winning streak in singles, 5 and 3 in doubles. How good did you feel about the way that you were playing last year as we were turning the calendar into March?
I was really excited. I was ready to finish the season strong, but unfortunately, the pandemic happened and we all had to stop, and it is what it is, but we have to look forward and keep being motivated and determined to achieve our goals.
How important was it for you being here isolated in a separate continent, different time zone, to try to just keep in touch, whether it be through Facebook or I'm sure there were plenty of phone calls home and FaceTime, but just trying to keep some sort of a connection with family and friends back in your home country?
I mean, it's not that difficult, but I mean, period that was difficult was when one of my family members got the COVID, so I felt a little bit bad that I was not there, but then I came back, so I was there, spend more time with family, friends, so it was a good thing that I went home.
How excited are you and the guys and the ladies to finally get this season underway, finally get things going here as the season starts to progress and you finally start to actually get to play?
I mean, I believe we're all excited, and especially now with having new recruits, new players, because I believe in my last 2 years, some players that we had were not enough motivated, they were not determined. So now I believe that the new players that came, they want to play, and we can see that they have the will to fight and play forward and try and win. So I believe this year is going to be maybe my best year of all 3 years that I've been here.
What do you feel like has been the thing that you have improved the most on, and how did having to stay separate from people affect what you would normally do for your preparation? Because obviously in tennis, there is a social distancing aspect. You don't ever have to get that close to your opponent.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were you able to do? Were you able to pretty much practice as you normally would getting set for a season?
Yeah, just normal practicing, and I believe I worked a lot on my mental strategy, so I believe I've matured a little bit more, and I have better understanding of the game, so I would say that's my biggest strength right now.
What do you feel is the strength of your game, X's and O's, to use somebody from over in your neck of the woods? Novak Djokovic has always been thought of as having one of the best return games in tennis. What do you feel like is the strength of your game when you're playing well? What's the one part about your game, forehand, backhand, return or serve, or something else that you can always kind of just count on, even when maybe another part of your game isn't going as well for you that day? What's the part of the game that you're always relying on?
I believe it will be my defensive game, because I'm a defensive player, so I like to run a lot. So that's how I mentally get my opponent tired, by just getting every single ball in. But if I would choose a stroke or something, it would be forehand. Forehand's my favorite. So, yeah.
Obviously, very excited to play, very excited to get going, and I'm hoping very excited to get your question from your coach, Shella Augspurger here. And she wants to know what your expectations are for yourself this year, and also the expectations you have for your teammates on the men's team.
Basically, my expectation, I don't have my own expectation for myself. My main expectation is for the whole team. Because in college, I like tennis because it's a team sport. So for me, it doesn't matter if I lose. It's important that the team wins and that we get that win and qualify for the playoffs and then make a good result in the playoffs. That's our big expectation, to try and get to the final and win it and go to nationals. Are you planning on playing? I could have asked Shella this as well. I know the season hasn't started yet, but are you planning to be a singles and doubles player again this year? Yes, of course. How different is the approach? Because tennis is always kind of that different animal where you have an individual sport and you kind of have a team concept that's put on top of it. When you're out there with the doubles partner, obviously you do have a team aspect. How do you approach the doubles game differently maybe than you do the singles game? I mean, if you would look at it that way, doubles, you have someone you can rely on and you can communicate with someone. So if, let's say, I do something wrong, he's there to support me, to get my head up. Sure. And tells me to always look positive. While in singles, it's different. You don't have anyone. But as I said again, in college, we have our teammates watching us so they can do the same thing. So basically it doesn't matter because we're all there as a team supporting each other. So that's the difference between playing professional individual tennis and playing college tennis.
Final question for you. What are your goals for the season? Doesn't have to necessarily be a win-loss record for you. It can be a team goal, but what are your goals? What do you want to get out of this senior season with you as the captain?
Well, as I said before, I would really like to win the conference because I've been already 3 years playing college tennis and I lost all 3 years in the final in the conference. So it's my last year and my goal is to win it.
Okay.
I'll give everything to win that conference.
That sounds fantastic.
Yep.
Once again, the season opens up on February 6th here in Wichita as the Jets take on the Ottawa Braves. From the KCAC, Teodor Antelj from Belgrade, Serbia, senior captain on the men's team. Great to see you again and have a fantastic season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We will have Darin Spence, the head women's basketball coach, on next as we wrap up the Jetcast after this. Back on the Jetcast, talking women's basketball as they get set for a little bit of an interesting week this week as we get ready for only one game. Missouri Western off the schedule, Northwest Missouri State now up next for the Jets, and I'm joined by head coach Darin Spence, coach of the Newman women's basketball team, 3-7, a 58-52 loss against number 14 Central Missouri last time out. Coach, boy, the Jennies, a program I know that you respect so much, and you guys were right in the thick of it with the Jennies right until the very end, took a late three-point lead, and gave yourself a chance to win the game right until the very last whistle. Obviously, that's not the goal of the game, is not to get close. You want to get wins. I know you were proud of your team's effort, but had plenty to correct. What were your thoughts and discussions with your team and in practice this week as you think back about that close loss?
You know, I each day that goes by, I dislike getting beat more and more. You know, it's you could say, oh, well, we got this out of it and we got that out of it, but you know, for the veteran, it's still you're getting beat, and no matter how hard you work and how hard you try, we're just not getting over that hump. We're just not getting that one extra possession that's gonna get us the lead and keep it. You know, we do a lot of good things in this, and with Central Missouri, game plan wise, we did everything we needed to do early. And we had them trying to figure out how to defend us, and we found the mismatches, and we went to it. And then, you know, we'd have some untimely turnovers that in this league turn into baskets for the other teams, and especially programs at that level. And so we're getting there, but it is frustrating. It's frustrating for the players. It's frustrating for coaches. I mean, all we can do is just keep working and keep at it. And it's funny to think that RJ and I were talking about this just a short couple years ago. We had that good run in those last few years of the Heartland.
Yes.
You know, we're getting there with our program, and we finished, you know, behind Lubbock Christian, national champion, beat them, only one in the league, and then we go 2 years in the MIAA, and all of a sudden we're stupid. We can't coach, we can't do anything right, you know. But it is a different animal. But you know, our kids are, you know, they're working, they're doing what we ask them to do, and it's just you just hope that you know, and you pray that one day it just really clicks for us, and I think we'll be much better.
Well, and one thing that you have asked the women to do has been to play defense, and they have played good defense this year in that 2-3 zone. You forced 21 turnovers against the Jennies, and you talked about two of those freshmen, Holden, who came off the bench. She ended up only having 6 points. That was about half of her average. Charlie Beauvais did hit her average, but she hit 2 early threes in the first half, did not score again. In fact, I'm not sure she had another attempt the rest of the game, so
right.
you really clamped down on her. So defensively, obviously, you did a lot of good things that kept you in the game against Central Missouri.
Yeah, no question. We're always going to be there defensively, and we're going to figure out a way. And we're holding teams well below what they score normally. And so is that because we are playing really, really slow and limiting possessions? I don't think that's the exact reason, but we do a good job of controlling the pace, and we do a good job of moving our initial spots in our defense to matching up, to moving, to rotating. We're becoming a little better at our IQ as far as who we have to stretch out to, and we do things differently in our zone than a lot of others do. So it takes some time to get going, but we're there. We're competing out of it. Still need to clean up, grabbing rebounds. And it's not that, oh my gosh, you can't rebound in the zone. That's not it. We have a lot of balls where we got our hands on them. We're deflecting them. We haven't come up with them. And I counted, in that last game, I counted about 8 points off of that stuff. That it's there, and we lose it, and it kicks out, and they hit a shot, and or we tip it to the other team. So if we just clean those up, we'll be even better defensively. And then again, it gives us more time for our offense to get going.
Well, you mentioned the offense getting going, and a player that you had kind of had challenged a little bit over the previous weeks. And I want to go back. You had her on even after a loss, which was fantastic. Madison Birnbaum. In the previous 4 games, she had 1 point, 0 of 11 from the field, 0 of 10 from the three-point line. And you told me in pre-game, post-game, whatever it was, after those bad performances, she was back in the gym, and you saw her, she was working. 29 points over the last 2 games, 8 of 11 from the field, 6 of 8 from the three-point line, and she matched a career high. So how much does it, just prove that when you're playing badly, the only way to get out of it is to get in the gym? And Madison Birnbaum did that, and boy, the results certainly did show out for her last week.
Yeah, and that's not a new concept.
It's not.
It's a known secret. It doesn't matter what sport or instrument you play. If you put the time in and you're truly invested in it, it's going to pay off. You're going to get better. Then it's just a matter of carrying it over in game time situations. So whether she was underachieving, under applying herself, all of the above, it came to a point where we had a little conversation, and and I challenged her, and she answered it. She's got the talent of anybody we play. She could be a higher level player in our league. She could be an all-conference player.
She's very athletic and longer than you think that she is.
Yeah, and she's got great timing. She's ornery. She's got a mean streak.
She's a little stubborn out there, isn't she?
Yeah. She can shoot the ball really well when she's locked in. And so I think it's just, in a few words, I told her, if you want a junior year, you better get going. And so but she's done that. And, she's a good one to have in our program. And she's got the opportunity to get better.
And she was nearly a 50-40-90 player last year, by the way. I think she missed free throws by about 6%, was the closest to do that here since Alexandra Cialpatoni, Heartland Conference Player of the Year, you might recall her. You talked a lot this year about needing to have flexibility on the schedule. And when we talked earlier this week, we didn't know exactly what day you were going to play, whether it's going to be Thursday, is it going to be Saturday. Obviously, Northwest Missouri, that's still on the schedule at some point during this week, but how do you try to help your team, your staff, and yourself just have flexibility as we continue trying to navigate what we hope is this 1 year, aberration in terms of how things are worked compared to what we're accustomed to?
Yeah, it's bananas. It really is.
I know.
Obviously, safety is number one priority. But again, that's every year. Everybody all of a sudden, COVID, safety. Why wouldn't safety be what we're thinking about or concerned about with these kids, with our coaches?
Absolutely.
In a normal year, when the families, entrust us with their kids, but so many things we take for granted. And, we'll just go to roll into the gym and go play. But we've talked often early on in the year about flexibility, learning to laugh a little bit. We laugh a lot, sometimes too much. Just roll with the punches because you don't have any control, and team travel and doing things differently in buses and hotels and restaurants and how you navigate all of that is different. So we just have to, we're going to go play here? Okay, we're going to play here. We'll go there. And, it's unfortunate that your schedule gets messed up. What I don't like about it is we're not the ones that caused this, and all of a sudden we're playing 3 games in a week or,
sure.
You're going to start scheduling Mondays. I wish the league would now all of a sudden let's take these games at the back of February and can we move them forward so we get them in, opening up more days in case there is a cancellation rather than waiting to the end of February to try to squeeze this game in. And so, I really wish also that the conference tournament would be everybody to reward our players,
sure,
coaches, for this because the new format is all home games anyways in the conference tournament. So
okay, so nothing in Kansas City.
That's going to come up, and it's so what's the big deal?
Sure.
Reward these kids, because if a handful of teams lose another couple games, mathematically you're out of it anyways. However, let's say a team gets to the conference tournament and they come down with COVID issues, they're done. They're out. What if they're the number 1 seed? I know they cut down the number of teams in the NCAA tournament, but will that actually happen at this level? The D1 level, that's got to happen because they need the money.
Of course.
Will it actually happen at our level? And, you let our number 1 best top team not make the conference tournament, what does that do to their chances to get into the regional tournament? So because we don't award, depending on where they are in regional rankings, but I just think there's so many things we could do to help these kids out and these coaches because it's been an interesting year. It's been a tough year, and I pray that the soccer coaches and the baseball and the softball and all those volleyballs that think, spring, we're going to go play. Not so fast, to quote Lee Corso.
Yeah.
There's some crazy things that are going to happen, and what are they going to do? Push their games into summer in June and July to get them in? So you just go with what you got, play when you can play, and just squeeze the most out of the time together with the kids and the coaches in your program.
Well, you mentioned kind of rolling with the punches and kind of being flexible to whatever happens. I'm not sure you were planning on earlier this week, but old Coach Nody stopped by your office.
Yeah.
He was talking golf. Coach Nodestein, the former men's golf coach here, just retired. So, Coach Nody, if you're watching, it was great to see you. But how good was it to catch up and get a donut with Coach Nody?
He's not going to watch this because he's probably in bed around 5:30. he was delivering donuts, but he's been in his time here he's been good, and shared a lot of golf stories and that kind of stuff.
You like golf?
Just a little bit, yeah. He's busy and in retirement and being bored,
sure,
and playing golf. But yeah, it was good to see him, and as we look forward in our schedule, so we'll play Thursday and then we go to Rogers State on Monday,
right,
for that makeup game. And so now really it could have set up better if we were still playing Saturday and then just go right down there and play Monday. However, it gives us some time in between to prepare for Monday because right after that we've got Washburn and Emporia here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever get any easier.
No. There's not a week at the schedule that you look like and say, oh, okay, well, we got a week off.
Yeah.
Not so fast in the MIAA.
And we have to fit the Missouri Western game on the road, which we're talking about February 15th, I believe. So it's been interesting, but we just got to keep plugging away.
Well, someone else is plugging away and helping you with all that is Coach Crum, who just won the Newman University Martin Luther King Jr. Award that's handed out on campus for a faculty and staff member making a difference here in the Newman community. And I know that you're extremely proud of her, as we all are, of Coach Crum with that incredible honor. Yeah,
she's, it was the Distinguished Service Award for the Faculty Staff Division. And it's and to find out that there were more than just one person that nominated her, more than just myself. There was two others that nominated her. So that speaks volumes to what she does and really who she is and the impact that she's had on our program, but also around. She's the information person. It's funny that it's like all the coaches, and ask questions, and she's the one that they find.
Yeah.
And so, but that's her. She's selfless and gives and goes out of her way and she's got a smile, but people find out she's not the easiest one all the time. She's not the one that wants to sit around and gab just to gab.
Sure.
She's very task oriented, which I keep telling her she's got a future when she decides to stop coaching into athletic administration. I think she'd be a great person to go down that road.
Sure.
Because she is so organized. But, yeah, she's been good for our players. And I knew that when the job came open, and I knew exactly that. I told Coach Turley that's the one person that we need here at this time. And she's done a lot for us, a lot for our kids, a lot for our campus. So, yeah, it was a good honor for her.
Final question for you. The Bearcats coming up, a Northwest Missouri team that I believe this was the overtime game last year, another real close one. So, obviously, going on the road to Maryville, not going to be an easy task. What do you look at when you see the Bearcats?
Yeah, that was 2 overtimes last year, and that was the one that kept us out of the conference tournament.
Yeah, that was the tiebreaker.
And
as it turned out,
yeah, they're having not the season that they had hoped for,
of course,
but none of us are really. And
right,
they have good pieces. They're playing at home, so it's really going to get down to who can keep the other team from making shots and hitting shots, and if we'll defend, if we'll find ways to score the ball. We'll give ourselves a chance. I've never been to Northwest Missouri, so I don't even know where it's at. I don't know. It's again, none of us have been in the gym.
Sure.
So we don't know. And so that's another first for us. We haven't been to Lincoln. We've been everywhere else except for Central Missouri, but I've been there, but our program hasn't. So
right.
We just got to go play, swing away, and enjoy the competition.
Newman women's basketball back in action against Northwest Missouri State this week. For all the latest schedule updates and news, NewmanJets.com. Coach, good luck. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Next week, we are going to start Diamond Sports previews. Yeah, spring sports are less than a month away, only a couple of weeks away. Hard to believe, so we'll start that next week. So until then, Blake Cripps saying, Go Jets.